10 minutes ago here at Hampton Downs, it was absolutely bone dry, very, very humid. Then the heavens just absolutely open, Shane Drake, just about monumental proportions.
Well, looking at that shot right now, it actually looks quite good. I mean, it's incredibly warm and humid at the moment, but within 200 metres of where you're looking right now, it was absolutely pouring down and it was dry on one side. So Mark Pedersen's got more of an update for that on his track side.
Here we have, guys, current track temperature at the moment is, let's have a look at this, we're currently at 27 degrees. But where we need to be is for those tyres to work, the tyre's got to be up around 55, 60 degrees. Just check the SMEG racing team, that tyre is only at 25, which is ambient with the ground. So they've got to generate a lot of heat to get some grip, otherwise turn one could be mayhem.
All right, so everyone on a full wet Hankook tyre, and we'll catch back up with Mark shortly. He's got an idea of who's exactly on what, because there's a combination of some used sets and new sets. So we'll come back to you on that as these cars are about to roll away, and it's an all SMEG racing front row with Simon and Mitch Evans starting alongside. Wet conditions. Honestly, you had to be here to believe it. On board with Simon Evans, that it was almost like Pukekohe, Shane. Half the track was dry, half the track was wet.
Yeah, and like I said, it was 200 metres if you're lucky in a straight line to the other point. There's no wind out here, so it's just gliding by as we take a look at the grid here.
Simon Evans starts off the pole alongside his younger brother Mitch Evans on debut this weekend. Mitchell Cunningham, second of the Mitches from grid 3 alongside Tim Edgell from 4. Those 4 cars were out of trouble in the second race. Sean Varney had a power steering issue, but he will start out of position 5. Andre Heimgartner from 6. Tony D'Alberto from 7. Dominic Story from 8. A lot of work has gone on in the property tutors pit with Tony D'Alberto's car, and may not necessarily be 100% for this one. We'll talk about that more later. On board with Dominic Story in the SG Fleet Commodore. Right front damage after that clash with Andre Heimgartner and D'Alberto in race number 2. There's a little bit of work to do from further back. On board with the pole sitter, race winner 1 and 2, Simon Evans. Certainly been quick in the dry. Everyone on a wet tyre. Now third onboard camera system with Mitch Evans, second to the SMEG Racing Team Commodores. So you can just see the water down from the hairpin on, for us, is the far side of the racetrack, I suppose, if you're on pit lane. So there is a lot of water. We've got 20 laps. The potential mark of things drying out here, you're on pit lane. Like, how is it now?
Rain has stopped. There's a little bit of blue cloud above us, but the thing is, it's only a 20-lap race. These tyres, we know they'll take a lot of punishment, probably 30 or 40 laps in the dry, which is certainly not ideal. But given it's a 20-lap race, I think to just roll the dice and stay on these wet tyres.
So you were saying just before we went to air, there's at least 3 cars on a used set or a roaded set of Hankook wets?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, only 3 cars, and that's the D'Alberto car, the Cunningham car, and the Heimgartner car. Everybody else has opted to stay on brand new wet weather tyres, which I don't think is actually going to be an advantage here. Because it's so cold, it's going to take 3 or 4 laps for those tyres to come up in temperature. The other guys have a bit of an advantage early on in the race. Might not work for them later on, but certainly early on it will.
And if you put that into context, it's like your shoes that you buy from the shoe store, and they're brand new, and you walk down the pavement and they're a bit slippery. Takes you a wee while, a couple of days for a pair of shoes anyway, to actually get that shiny edge off them and finally get some grip. And that's what happens with a sticker tyre versus a used tyre.
Certainly does. Hey, look, one other thing I must make a comment on is that when we were on the dummy grid just a second ago, it is so slippery underfoot. So you know, imagine what it's going to be like with these guys barreling into turn 1.
And with the torque generated from these 7-litre engines as well. Streaming wet conditions. The rain has lightened up, but there's a lot of standing water on the race circuit. 20-lap finale for the weekend. The Rush Security Waikato 250. Round 4 of the Hankook Super Series. Very, very tricky conditions, which really we've had pretty much through the start of the championship in the 3 rounds of the Endurance Series.
There's always a curveball in motor racing.
Yeah, Mitch Evans there just lighting up the rear wheels on the approach to the start.
That's what you got to do to get them up to temp.
All SMEG Racing front row. Simon Evans off pole, Mitch Evans from 2, Mitch Cunningham from 3. Edgell, Barney from the inside of row number 3. Wait for the lights to go out. And they'll be treading carefully down into turn number 1. Cunningham will look to try and get up the inside of Mitch Evans down into 1. A little little bit of exit oversteer, predictably. Mitch Evans pulls up alongside Simon.
I'll tell you what, he found a lot of grip round there at 2-1. He's going to do what he did in race number 2.
Try and go around the outside, and that'll be to the inside. A little bit of contact there, I think, maybe between Delberto and Varney.
Oh, Mitch might have got squeezed by his brother, and now it's Cunningham takes a spot.
Yeah, he got jumped by Mitch Cunningham. Tim Edgell's going to have a look down the inside, battling there side by side with Andre Heimgartner. So very, very wet conditions. First time in a tin top for Mitch Evans in full wet conditions.
Here's Heimgartner.
This weekend, Heimgartner down the inside. Oh, Mitch Cunningham. Oh, we got 2 off, and that's Story and Varney. Oh, Cunningham is off in the end of it. Well, it looked like the start of it. He was very, very wide, lit it up off the curbs, and he's made contact with the fence off the exit. So the carnage continues, smaller than usual field. These conditions have already caught a few out.
Oh, that's hit hard too. Safety car.
Dominic Story, the front of his car, full of dirt.
That car's going to have to come into pit lane.
Oh,
for
Cunningham
sure.
with rear damage as well.
Oh,
Varney has got out of the sand trap, so this safety car's not going to last very long. Look at the amount of debris coming out of the back of it.
That's just what you need in your race driver, and you're in the wet.
Cunningham, look how much debris Cunningham's brought back onto the track. Right, so here's the replays. So Evans leads down. Cunningham was very wide in the approach. Heimgartner's gone down the inside of...
Well, actually, did you see Delberto in the background? He was out of control before these 2 guys actually lost it. There's Cunningham going way too quick.
So he was out on the curbs off the exit.
And he just gasses it. There you go, on the curb.
Oh, it's turned right. Bang!
And that's an Angus Fogg moment, that one.
Here's a front-on shot.
Yep.
It just grips, turns right, and stops.
Well,
it's both ends of the race car.
Yeah, that's where the rear damage, and he doesn't let off the gas.
And there's that material. He's just sprayed out across the circuit. Just driving through now behind the SsangYong safety car. Well, what a start to this one.
Well, actually, Mitch Cunningham has stayed out on the circuit.
Just hearing the call that the safety car will stay out for 1 more lap, so they might do a little bit of clean-up there. That used to be a Ford Falcon. It's a little bit harder to recognise now. Definitely dragged in the left front.
Now, I did the research on this man between races, and him and Mitch Evans never did race together.
Yeah, we did ask that question. I couldn't remember.
And TRS says he comes into the pits, and that's probably a good move. But what I did find out is that Mitch Cunningham on screen now owned chassis number 36, which they then sold to Mitch Evans. And Cunningham won 1 year, Evans won the next year and the 3rd year. So it's quite a successful car, that number 36.
So they didn't actually race together, but they have raced the same car in the Toyota Racing Series.
Yep. So effectively not together.
Yeah, debris flag at turn 5 is the call on race radio. Again, not too hard to figure that one out.
I don't think they can do anything about that.
There will be a lot of damage underneath the front of that car, just again with the mounts for the front splitter.
And to give you an idea, it took the Heimgartner team, the Hydrolink team, almost all the time. We saw the damage, very similar sort of damage. It took them all the time between race 2 and 3 to actually get that thing mobile.
Didn't get into the right front rail, the main rail. It was that sacrificial end that mounts all the bumpers and everything off it, which is what they designed to do. Coming back to Delberto's, that rear end's not entirely happy with that car. They've actually set it in so it squares up the right side. Mork, down there, how much damage?
Yeah, guys, actually quite a fair bit. The back of the car, they can live with that if they can get it back out, but Mitch is actually climbing out of the car as we speak, so that's the indication. It's obviously a bit more extensive than what we can see.
Safety car lights are out. We're going to go back racing here. Simon Evans. Mitch Evans. Andre Heimgartner's been the big benefactor there. He started near the tail of the field. I know with a few less cars to have to contend with, but that brings him right back into the equation. An almost unbelievable stat that we've talked about. Heimgartner's never won a BNCNZ Super Tourer race, which is almost hard to believe because he is quick. Oh, look at the conditions further back. Visibility just about at nil.
Yeah, that's the advantage of being in P1. And here comes Mitch having a nose, and Heimgartner does the same. He's getting awfully close.
So Simon Evans leads away. Everyone on wet tyres. Tricky conditions. Have already caught a couple out on board with Mitch Evans.
Oh, listen to that. That's just...
And these 7-litre engines produce so much torque. Oh, Mitch got in a little bit deep. Couldn't get it turned at 4. Heimgartner's up the inside.
Great car control. Looks like he's gonna stay there.
Evans has got the inside though to the left-hander coming down the hill into the BNT hairpin. Oh. D'Alberto dives down the inside. Might have been a little bit of contact from behind there too.
Yeah, Story give him a little nudge.
Yeah, so the back end of D'Alberto's car is not ideal. A lot of damage. It broke shocks. It broke the Watts linkage. It's bent the diff housing. They didn't have enough time to turn that round and replace the full rear end assembly. So a little bit of a compromise on trying to square the back end of that car up, which may not be a big issue here in these wet conditions, Drakey.
No, sometimes things like that don't matter so much, but what we're going to see is whether or not who's done their homework and gone for what we call a full sort of setup for the rain, potentially like getting the car a lot softer so it bounces around a bit more, tries to find some grip, whereas that's not always the key thing in the dry. And it's on board the Story. Already sent D'Alberto a Morse code in the previous lap.
Mark, I don't know that the teams would have had an awful lot of time to throw a wet setup at these cars because it literally rained less than 5 minutes before the race start.
Yeah, you're right there. They would have had a little bit of time to do it, but given the fact that it's so dry, oh sorry, it's actually dry in, it'll almost be suicide, guys, if you actually went out on a full wet weather setup knowing it's going to dry.
D'Alberto and Story have just run off. They're back on track.
They were all doing it. That must be treacherous coming over that hill.
Simon Evans now with a little bit of a break over his brother, who in turn just extended over Andre Heimgartner in that. Tim Edgell looking very good here.
Yeah, he's actually the man that's got the pace here to go forward.
And again, all of these cars look to be a little bit better at different parts of the racetrack, even in these early stages. D'Alberto very disappointed after that clash in race number 2 with the DNF.
Sean Varney now attacking Dom Story, so that's good for that young man. He's going to have a bit of a nose, or he's just trying to see where the corner is.
Yeah, that might be part of it, with vision down into turn number 1, which is blind anyway. As you drop down the hill, you cannot see the end of the corner. Oh, Varney lit the rear of the Simply Leasing Ford up on the curbs. He's doing a good job in these early laps.
Yep, no, he is.
Dominic Story's had pretty good pace throughout the weekend.
What you just got to be wary of here is you got to keep the car away from those curbs and away from anything that's painted, because they just light up.
There's the gaps, first to 4. D'Alberto just back off Tim Edgell by a couple of seconds. Fastest lap of the race, Simon Evans at a 1:15.20. Just he and Mitch in the 15s. The previous couple of laps. Heimgartner now just starting to come back to Mitch Evans. A lot of debris on the racetrack off the preferred racing line. I don't know that there's going to be enough cars out there or laps to maybe see the track drying out.
Now, certainly a lot of surface water, and that takes a lot of cars to pump it away.
So Mitch Evans on that lap's actually gone quicker at a 1:15.04. Simon at a 1:15.1. Heimgartner at 1:15.1. Edgell 1:15.5. D'Alberto with some pace at 1:15.1.
I had a quick chat to Mitch Evans between race 2 and 3, and
Edgell's gone. Around he goes, just too much throttle application again on the curves off the exit, and rotates the Chester's Holden out of 4th.
Here we go. And he started it, he was running out of road, so he just tried giving it a bit more gas to bring it round, and it started just before the curb, and then it just tripled in size, and he's gone. That's a shame.
Well, he was looking pretty good there. D'Alberto now up into 4th. So Mitch Evans, first time in full wet conditions, first time in a touring car of any description racing-wise this weekend. For a moment there, he thought in race number 1 he might have been going out for his first ever race in the wet. Those are the conditions that they've had to contend with right throughout the weekend here at Hampton Downs.
As I mentioned, Jamie, I had a quick chat to him, and he really quite enjoyed that dodgy sort of half slippery race 2, and that incident at turn 1 where he went in on his own. You can see the car moving around under brakes. He's actually quite enjoying the whole experience. And to top it all off, his brother was looking in his mirror and he saw it all happen and had a bit of a chuckle.
Yeah, Simon said to me that he sort of came up, loomed up in the mirrors, and then he went around. He thought he was going in a little bit too deep. So Simon Evans has just got into the 14, so the lap time's starting to come down now as they've got heat into these tyres. Certainly it doesn't look like it's going to dry out too much. Good opportunity to take a lap here with Simon Evans on board the Smeg Commodore.
So down to 100 kilometres an hour through here, and we'll accelerate up. Only really get to 5th gear up here, all the way to 245 k's. Probably won't be getting that in this one. Back down to 3rd, down to 120 about right now, and very easy on the throttle. And then back down to 2nd gear, coming down from 185 to 85 k's. There'll be some short shifting going on here, just to let the car use its torque to get over. Back up to 165 k's, slowest corner on the track at 60. Easy as she goes. Yeah, see how quickly he changed back up. 160 k's, back down to 64. 2nd gear. Another short shift, so very smart thinking. And he'll get up to 205 k's to complete this fabulous lap of Hampton Downs.
Last lap was a 1:14.405. Just listening to this lap, Shane, how little wheel spin Simon's getting. We heard with Dominic Story, just trying, it's just that throttle application, trying not to light up the rears. The last lap was a 14.40. That wasn't much slower at a 14.50.
The problem is if you start lighting up the rears and you end up like what Dom did, end up like what Timmy Edgell did, and you just leave yourself vulnerable. He's just short shifting it, and it all helps when you're in front too. So it makes a big difference having track position, no spray in front of you.
Hey guys, just spoke to the Tony D'Alberto crew, and they said Tony radio back in and said the car's actually grouse, albeit the wheel and it's not 100%. But look, I just standing on pit lane, just to give you a bit of an update on how bad the track is, and I'm absolutely convinced I saw smoke pouring off the right front tyre, off that thing where the tyre meets the front clip. So it'll be interesting to keep an eye on that. Well,
he's got Dominic Story right there with him at the moment. Again, you just Dominic lighting up the rears on throttle application. There was some contact early on that D'Alberto was involved in, just the right front.
Yeah, it has got damage there. You see on the front splitter, when you're looking at it on the left side, on the right side in our picture now, and you see there's a big gap where the front splitter meets the guard, and that could just be the reason why Mark's commenting on some smoke, especially under extreme force and braking, where the front of the car dips down, tyre then rubs against the guard or the splitter.
Previous lap.
I think Mark's right. There's the damage, and it certainly didn't look like a water haze. I think it'll be fine.
Just about to say, Heimgartner was on the move on the previous lap. He set the fastest lap of the race at a 14.3. It actually closed the gap to Mitch Evans to within 1.5 seconds, but he's just lost a 1.5 seconds on that last lap, and the gap's back out to 2.4 seconds. So Heimgartner must have made a little mistake somewhere.
His story now coming up on the back of D'Alberto, and these guys have had contact in this race and race 2.
D'Alberto should be pretty good off this corner, because the right side, the right rear, there's Tracy looking on. The right rear's got about 8mm toe out with the bent diff tube. That'll certainly help it keep it nice and tight through the left-handers.
Hey, well, that was a bit of an all-female lineup for a race team, wasn't it?
Wasn't bad.
Tracy in charge of things this weekend, while her partner Angus is racing down south.
In the rain, I understand. Doing double duty in the Mini and an XD Falcon muscle car.
Well, that'll keep the farmers happy, not the car racers, and exactly the same here.
Yeah, we certainly have needed a little bit of rain around. It's been fantastic over the summer holidays. Just not on a motor racing weekend. So Simon Evans, 2.9 seconds ahead of Mitch, who's just set the fastest lap of the race. A full half second quicker than Simon. 1:13.5 from Mitch Evans. Simon's just done a 1:14.0. Heimgartner a 1:14.2. D'Alberto 14.2. So Mitch Evans 1:13.5.
Well, maybe we're on the improve. Tell you what, that's certainly looking a lot closer in that picture. It is a fair. It's just under 3 seconds, and we go back on board with Story and the SG Fleet E-Cloth Commodore as he chases down D'Alberto into turn number 6. TR Group books.
Both of these cars being engineered by Wayne Anderson, Jacko from AV8.
And that's just going to leave him a little bit vulnerable. See that car just twitch up.
Dominic should get a run here up the inside, but he's going to have to be careful under brakes down into one. The very experienced Tony D'Alberto.
Oh, I think he'll let him go, mate, and try and slip back on the inside of him. He knows how slippery the track is offline, so there's no point trying to fight it.
Dominic Story up to 5th. Both of these cars involved in the incident in race number 2 that also claimed Andre Heimgartner. Again, Mitch Evans goes quickest to the 1:13.5. Simon 1:13.6. Dominic Story's just done a 1:13.7 with that pass on Tony D'Alberto. So that car's coming on strong in the latter stages of this final race. It's been a while since we've had a clean sweep. Greg Murphy was the last driver to do it, and he did it a couple of times. Scott McLaughlin did it at the end of the first season for the BNC V8 SuperTourers. The Dominic Story team look on. So Heimgartner is about 4 seconds up the road from these two with 7 laps to go. Simon Evans with a 2.8 second advantage over Mitch. Oh, Simon's lost some time just looking at the monitors because the gap's down to 0.6 of a second. 2 Smeg Racing Commodores must just about be nose to tail. There's that puff of smoke from the right rear of D'Alberto on the onboard with Story.
Yeah, I don't think it's anything too serious. It's only really doing it there, so it's either braking or a bit of high-end downforce. And there's the picture.
Simon Evans lost 3 seconds. 3 seconds on that previous lap, maybe a little mistake somewhere. Mitch's eyes will be wide open now. He's back within touch of his brother.
Well, I can't emphasise enough the amount of concentration that you've got to have in conditions like this. And you can hear, you've seen what's happened out the front of Dom Story's car, and you can see the way that Simon was driving his car. It is just absolute finesse that is needed to get around a track that's like this.
So on board there with Mitch Evans. There's Andre Heimgartner. It's not too far off pace-wise from these two. Mitch Evans at a 1:13.5, fastest lap for Heimgartner.
You saw then how Evans with an M got a bit of a twitch going through the final turn.
Don't know that the windscreen wiper's doing an awful lot there, Drakey.
No.
In fact, I think, just looking at it from that shot out of the back of Simon's car, that may not actually be making any contact at all with the windscreen. It's Tim Edgell and Sean Varney. That is for 6th position. Edgell's going to get the job done before the top of the hill. Inside run down into 1. Edgell on the comeback after that spin earlier on in the race. Gets the job done with a nice pass down into turn number 1.
The way that number 14 Simply Leasing cars moving around, I think Sean Varney's actually quite enjoying his time out there. Some people tend to enjoy conditions more like this than others. Some people hate it, some people love it. And sometimes it can be the slower guy that enjoys it more than the faster guy from the dry. It's just one of those things. They call it the great leveller.
Well, our own Jimmy Richards was probably still is, the driver they call the Rainmaster. He was one of the best in wet conditions.
Yeah, but he also was the best in dry conditions too.
Dry.
No, it's not a theory I subscribe in, but there is occasion to think about it twice.
Just about identical lap times for Simon and Mitch. 13.8, 13.8 Heimgartner. 13.8 He is about 3.5 seconds behind this duo. Downshift for Mitch Evans.
And the other thing that you've got to try and do, you can see at the front of this shot, is where you see the dark patches, you've got to try and stay on them. If you wander off onto the shinier patch and you start hitting the water, and then you're in trouble. So that's the problem when you go to pass someone, is you've got to go offline. You've got to make sure that it's not going to affect your next corner.
Fastest on that last lap was actually Dominic Story at a 13.5, and he set the fastest lap of the race at 13.414. And the second fastest lap of the race, which was the last lap for Dominic Story.
Well, he's bringing D'Alberto with him. He hasn't let off.
D'Alberto's was a 14.0 the last lap. So 4 laps left to go here at Hampton Downs. Simon Evans looking for the clean sweep. From memory, just the third driver to be able to do so. Murph did it. Actually, I think Murph might have done it 3 times. Such was his dominance in the last 18 months to 2 years with 2 BNTV8 Super Tourer championships. Simon Evans 13.5, Mitch Evans 13.9. Heimgartner's just gone quickest with a 13.35, but he's still 3 seconds behind Mitch Evans. Back on board with Story, looking back to D'Alberto. So Heimgartner has just set the fastest lap.
Here he is, the man on the screen, number 22. Hydrolink Commodore.
Looking forward to a supercar campaign with Super Black Racing.
Yep, he's taking it quite seriously too.
Just completed a training session in the last couple of weeks with all of the Ford Performance Racing drivers. Mark Winterbottom.
Do you call shearing sheep a training session?
Yeah, apparently they did that too.
And racing cars up a hill.
And the development driver, young Caleb Cross out of Christchurch, was with the team as well. David Reynolds and all of those guys were in Auckland recently. So Simon Evans just running a little bit wider up over the top of the hill. You think he just might be starting to look for a little bit of extra water on the straights. 13.6 for Simon, 13.4 for Mitch, 13.9 for Heimgartner on board with Mitch again.
The only shot we've seen like this in the last 4 years is in either a GP2 or a GP3 single-seater car as support the Formula 1. So look at that car move around. He's actually having a good time.
The turn and understeer there, looking pretty relaxed as well.
Sitting low in the seat as he does in his GP2 car.
Not used to seeing him with the visor up.
No, I like that, seeing what the eyes have got. Someone made a comment to me earlier today that the look in his eyes when ready to go was something that they don't see. The stare of concentration when he was about to go out. So whatever he does, he takes very seriously.
I mean, what we've seen from Mitch this weekend, Nick Cassidy did something very, very similar and managed, I think, win a race from memory. As now Mitch is looking for a little bit of water as well. There's Mitch and Simon's mum Tracy looking on. Nick Cassidy, when he ran at Taupo, subbing for Murphy, was superb. Yep. Absolutely superb.
Yeah, with Jack Perkins, that's right.
Simon Evans at 13.4, Mitch Evans 13.5, Heimgartner at 13.5, Dominic Story 13.3. Still the fastest driver on track at the moment. Fastest lap still Heimgartner with a 13.35, an extra 8 bonus points. The fastest lap of the race.
Oh, Mitch is throwing that thing around now.
Yeah, you can see how much understeer he had turning in that time. You could hear the chirp from the front tyre. He's trying pretty hard. He might try and get as close to Simon as he can on the run to the checkered flag, which is not too far away here at Hampton Downs. Simon Evans looking for his first ever clean sweep. The BNT NZ Super Tourers. New colours for the weekend. The last lap board will be out for the championship leader. There it is, last lap, 1 to go, 13.5. Mitch Evans, 13.348, just set the fastest lap. No, he hasn't. Heimgartner answers back with a 13.22.
Last time down to turn number 2. up through goal now, and they'll head down to rush security, turn 3. Turn 4, I should say. And easy as she goes up the hill for quite a drop-off, about a 10-metre drop-off. Don't realise it till you stand beside and see how far down the hill these guys go.
It's a great corner to stand above and watch them on the race circuit here at Hampton Downs. Quick look in the mirror for Mitch Evans just to see the gap back to Andre Heimgartner, which still around that 3.2 seconds. Last corner for the Evans brothers. Second consecutive 1-2. Simon becomes the third ever driver to do the clean sweep for the weekend behind Scott McLaughlin and Greg Murphy, who I said, as from memory, I think did it at least 3 times. Win for Simon Evans. Second, Mitch Evans. Very, very happy Smeg Racing team. Heimgartner with a 3rd place finish in the Hydrolink number 22. Holden Commodore. Not quite enough for the Smeg Joe out in front. Dominic Story had some issues, and he will salvage 4th. Andre Heimgartner sets the fastest lap of the race on the last lap at a 13.197.
Thumbs up there for brother Mitch as he goes past, but a great record for Simon Evans.
Simon Evans with the victory, just 1 second clear of Mitch Evans. Andre Heimgartner in 3rd, ahead of Dominic Story, Tony D'Alberto, Tim Edgell in 6th, Sean Varney in 7th. DNF, unfortunately, for Mitch Cunningham here at Hampton Downs.